Hey guys, it's me, Sam. I am your Kidlit tour guide and lover of all things books. Today I wanted to give you guys an update on something really exciting, which is that I started a local book club. I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about how I organized it and also what our very first book was. I was thinking from now on, every time we read a book, after we discuss it in our local book club session, I would come on my booktube channel and tell you guys what the book was and my personal thoughts about it, as well as some of the conversation that we had during book club. So without further ado, let me tell you guys about starting a book club and also what our very first book was. So here's a little something that you should probably know about me. I am super introverted. I love alone time. I really recharge by being by myself. It's for real. I am also pretty darn shy. I don't really go up to people and talk to them. It takes a lot of effort to even have a conversation with someone at a grocery store that I don't know. Sometimes it even takes a lot to have a conversation at a grocery store with someone that I do know. So these things are just a deadly combination between being an introvert and being shy. If I can be perfectly honest, I've been struggling with making friends. It's hard. It's hard as a mom. It's hard as an adult. And unlike when I was in college, where friendships just kind of blossomed because you're around people with common interests, traveling all the time as a military family and just being in new locations and not knowing anyone, I have struggled with making friends. So I went into my local mom Facebook group and I decided to rally together some women who wanted to start a book club. This is like a we are talking about books book club. The kids could go off and kind of do their own thing and have fun, so kids would be welcome, and the adults, the moms, would just sit around and talk about books. And we had our first meeting this past Tuesday and it was awesome, everything I had anticipated. And what was really exciting was there was not a lot of work on my part. I kind of did a few different steps. The first thing I did was I put together a doodle poll, which is just this really awesome scheduling tool that you can use for free, and you just set all of the dates that you are available and then everyone goes in and selects the dates that they're available. So that made scheduling the time of our first event easy. And then what we did was for our very first meeting, I just chose a few books that I saw on Amazon and in different places that are top recommended for book clubs. And I put in our Facebook group that we had created specifically for our book club a poll with 3 options, and we just chose a book like that. So once we chose the book and we chose the date, I made a Facebook event, everybody RSVP'd, and then guess what? They actually showed up at my house. It was amazing. It was so fun. It was such an easy way to start a conversation without feeling that pressure of just trying so hard to make friends. We had something to talk about at least. And I noticed, when everyone first arrived, it was a little awkward because we're all just brand new to each other. And as we started talking about the book, the conversation really started going. So we would talk about the book, but then we'd also talk about other things and really get to know each other. And now I'm excited to say that I feel like friendships are blossoming, and I'm just so happy that I took that step to start this book club, because although it was scary, although I was really hoping that I wouldn't get no responses, that would be terrible, I just kind of did it and it was easy. So if you guys are struggling making friends and you clearly love books, if you're here, I'm just guessing, I highly recommend start a book club. It's so easy. Think about the steps I did. I set up a scheduler, I created a Facebook group, which was super simple. I put together a poll for each of the books, and then we just met each other, brought our kids, and had so much fun. One thing we decided to do at this first meeting was choose the topic, the genre of book for the next 2 sessions. So we chose the genre, we put all of the different genres we liked into one hat, and we just selected the next 2. And then what I did was I went out and I looked for top books in those genres, and then we did the same thing again. I set up the scheduler, did the poll, and we chose the next book. So that's basically how I set it up. It was super easy and fun and so worth it, you guys. I'm so happy that I did that, and I cannot be more excited. I know the other women were really excited too, and now we're all kind of hosting it at different people's houses, and it's really cool. I'm over the moon that this book club idea kind of just came to me, and we just made it happen, and people participated, and we literally talked about books. Like I said, I wanted to kind of let you guys in as my online community, let you guys into the books that we're reading in our book club. So in case you kind of want to do the same thing in your local community, you can be maybe one book behind us and just follow along with the books that we're reading. The book that we read for our first session was On Turpentine Lane by Eleanor Nip. Her name is so hard to say. Blah. So the book we read for our first meeting was On Turpentine Lane by Eleanor Lipman. This book is considered a romantic comedy, which is not something that I normally read. I'm normally way more into thrillers and that kind of mystery novels, but this book was actually pretty good. I mean, I have to say, it's very short. It's about 300 pages and it's a super quick read. It's a lot of dialogue and not a lot of description, and it just follows the story of a woman who has a fiance kind of, and he just goes off randomly and does this walk, and she realizes over time that he is just not who she thought he was, and she kind of, maybe potentially, without giving too much away, she may find another love interest. And it also kind of parallels a story between her parents who are struggling through their own marriage. And it's just an interesting story that also ties in this house that she buys on Turpentine Lane, and this very weird story about some weird things that happened to some babies in the house and to past husbands falling down the stairs. I mean, I'm not giving too much away. This is revealed very early on in the story that there's something kind of eerie about the house, but it was really an interesting read and very fast paced, so it made the perfect book for our very first book club meeting. It was funny though, because when I first read the book, I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. And then when we sat down and had a conversation about it and really started dissecting the characters, I realized that there were many problematic things with this book, mainly the fact that I felt that the story was so rushed that the ending was just like, without giving too much away, everything kind of worked out. What happened to all these other conflicts that had happened in the book, and how did they all of a sudden get resolved? And it just felt like there was a lot of characters with a lot of stories that didn't get fully fleshed out because it was such a short book. So there's nothing wrong with that. That definitely makes it less of a substantive novel and more so just like a fun, fluffy read, which is the way one of my friends from book club described it, that it was fluffy, and I could not agree more. But it was kind of interesting to me thinking about the fact that when I first read it, I actually really liked it, and then upon further discussion, I realized things that I didn't like. And although it's not to say that in every book club meeting we're going to just be tearing down our authors and our books that we're reading, but it's cool to think like, yeah, we can ask for more. Like, not every book that we read has to be 5 stars. Like, this one we rated about a 3.5. Considering that it was under the genre of romantic comedy, we definitely made sure to take that into account, because a romantic comedy isn't necessarily supposed to be super deep and in-depth and have lots of values and purpose. It was still pretty shallow for a romantic comedy. I do think that the author made a few interesting character traits that I hadn't really seen before in other books. The one guy that like does all the running and stuff, he's just so weird and so annoying, and I was so frustrated with him the whole time, but I was like, if I knew someone like that, he would be an interesting person that I'd probably want to talk about or write a story about. So I'd be interested to know if maybe she knew someone that was like that in real life and then decided to base the character off of him. I'm not really sure, but I did think that that guy was pretty interesting. His name was Stuart, which is just an interesting name anyway. I gave that book 3.5 stars. It wasn't the best book we'd ever read, but for a romantic comedy, it wasn't too bad. Definitely a fluffy novel. Definitely something that was perfect for the summer because it was so fast, and the fact that we chose the book about 10 days before we went to go read, it was nice to have something that was quick and fast-paced. The last thing I'll say about the book is that I would be super interested to actually see this house because it sounded kind of crazy, but also the history behind it sounded so interesting. I'd really want to go in and inspect the basement and see if I could find any interesting stains. Let's just put it that way. So that was the book that we read this month, On Turpentine Lane by Eleanor Lipman. For our next book club meeting, we've already chosen the genre. The genre is historical fiction. I'm not going to tell you guys the book that we read yet because I want you to go check it out in the next video, which I will be posting hopefully sometime after our next meeting. But that is all I have for you guys for today. I hope you really enjoyed hearing about my experience starting a book club. I hope you feel inspired to start your own. And if you have started a book club, leave information in the comments below about how people can connect with it if it's local, and also just any thoughts that you have about starting a book club. Maybe there's something that I forgot about. By the way, I didn't even mention this. I printed out questions ahead of time, so just in case there was a lull in the conversation about the book, we had something to kind of grasp back onto, which we did, and it was super useful, and I just found those online somewhere. But if you have started a book club, I would love to hear about your experience, and if you've been moving a lot, like how have you started that over in your new location, because I think that's something I'm going to want to keep in mind for the future. If you've read this book and you gave it a higher or lower rating than 3.5 stars, I would love to hear your thoughts on it and why you gave it a better or lower rating. Thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. I am so happy to be back on YouTube, and I cannot wait to give you more bookish content, tell you guys more about the books that I'm reading and the books that I'm reading with my daughter. I hope I have inspired you, and I will see you in my next video.